The Mario Rosenstock Podcast. Thanks to Hum. Finance made easy when you shop tech, electrical, appliances, kitchens and much more. Flexify Europe Limited, trading as Hum, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Coming up on this episode of the Mario Rosenstock Podcast.
That was an amazingly magical moment where the energy, the vibe, we sang the BVs. It was like, in the name of love. And we were just like belting the song. And then fast forward to 2 years later and I'm at Coachella in the Sahara tent watching Martin Garrix and everybody's singing along and it's been a big hit.
Oh my God.
And I've been in other scenarios where I've been in gym classes and then my song comes on and I see people working a little bit harder and I'm like, yes, because that song motivates them. Or I see people crying or I see someone singing.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, it's the most magical thing. And it's even more magical that people are purely doing that maybe around me not knowing that I am one of the writers.
What do Niall Horan, Britney Spears, Westlife, Martin Garrix and One Direction all have in common? The answer is they've all had hits written or co-written by Grammy-nominated Irish singer-songwriter RuthAnne Cunnigham. RuthAnne is a real Irish success story with multi-platinum global hits totalling over 10 billion streams and collaborations with greats like Diana Ross and John Legend. RuthAnne joined me on the Sunday Roast radio show on Today FM a couple of years ago to tell me the story behind Nice to Meet You, which she co-wrote with Niall Horan, a song that went on to be a huge hit. So we asked her to come back for a chat about all of her other hit songs, her collaborations, and of course her own successful career as a performer. She has some really, really cool stories to tell.
That was when I was like, nice to meet you. And we were just, nice to meet you. What's your name? I think that was the first section we wrote. And the gotta love for you, gotta love for you, that's real. So I was trying to do the kind of like, what would be like a thing that almost sounds like a sample. And then Niall ended up doing it and it almost sounds like a sound. Gotta love for you, that's real. Pink Pony Club was out for 3 years. It was just sitting there and it had not that many streams and it wasn't a hit. And that's why I'm always saying the song's not the problem. Sometimes it's the vehicle. People just love Irish people. You know, all the people before me that have made this great name for Ireland really helped me, especially in my first times in Hollywood of like walking into rooms. It was like being Irish was like the best calling card I had.
My full chat with RuthAnne Cunnigham coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. But first, of course, you've noticed, haven't you? Saunas. They're all the rage. Not just saunas, but the cold plunge and then back into the sauna. Everybody's doing it. Lots of companies are making money from it. And they've even had a sauna, I believe, installed in Leinster House, would you believe?
This is a great sauna going forward, Simon.
It's an excellent sauna.
Government sauna to add to our facilities at Leinster House. How much did it come in at again?
4.2 million.
Oh, that's not bad value. Not bad value for a sauna and a plunge pool.
No, the plunge pool came in at 2.3 million extra.
All right. Saunas are very good. Very good for the cardiac health, I hear.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the weight loss.
Sure, we don't need to lose any weight, Simon, going forward. I'd say we're the lightest tarnished the Taoiseach combination in history.
We're like a pair of jockeys.
Except it's not the horses we're riding, huh? It's the country, what?
Sorry?
I'm joking.
Right. Hi, everybody. Just keeping you all informed of how I'm delivering for the country today. Today I'm...
What the hell are you doing Instagram in the sauna?
Here with the Taoiseach, of course.
Hello, how are you?
Sweating it out on behalf of the Irish
Sweating
people.
it out,
Just about to take a cold plunge.
Are we?
Right, let's go.
Right, I've never done a cold plunge going forward.
No, it's easy. Very good. You just get in and you just put your whole body under the water.
Okay. No, I'm getting in now. It can't be that bad. Going forward.
Right, get out again. Get back in the sauna.
Well, let's get back in the sauna. Close the door.
Back in the sauna.
No, that's much better.
God, that's better.
Much better.
Yeah, that's better. Okay.
Oh, so steamy in here, you can't see a thing.
Yeah, it's excellent for a confidential cabinet conversation.
Absolutely, Simon. A leak-proof sauna, huh?
Absolutely. Hi, guys.
Who's that? Who goes there?
Jesus, Leo, is that you?
I didn't see you through the steam, Leo.
Sorry, guys. I still have my government fob, just in case you were going to say anything confidential.
Oh, no problem going forward. Thanks for letting us know, Leo.
Hi, everybody. Still delivering in the
on Instagram
sauna
again.
on behalf of the Irish people, joined by another Taoiseach, actually former Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar. And hi, everybody.
Well, lads, how's it hanging, huh?
Oh, Willie. Willie, what are you doing? Willie,
for God's sake.
Of course I'm Willie. What are you talking about?
No, Willie, the towel, please. You're supposed to be wearing a towel in the sauna.
God, I'm streaming live to the Irish people. Sorry about that, folks.
I'm sorry, lads.
Put it away, Willie, for God's sake. You want to get the cops up here?
Look, I was unaware of the etiquette in situ in the sauna.
Unaware?
Look, it's no problem, lads. It's so steamy in here, nobody can see the offending appendage.
In fairness, that had nothing to do with the steam, Willie.
What do you mean?
That's just a little joke. Will you cop on, Willie?
That's very funny.
Relax.
Anyway, it's not a bad little sauna, anyway, for 5 million.
I thought it was 4.2 million.
Oh, Jesus, no. Did you not hear about that?
No.
No, that was the quote we got from Saunas or us.
So who built this one then, Willie?
These fellas are called Celtic Gold saunas.
All right.
I think that's what they're called anyway.
Fair enough.
Very good value.
Mary Lou will hit the roof when she hears
Oh,
this.
Jesus, not to give it a dub.
Count Carla, let the oil Count
what a
Carla.
dose.
Queer Fianna Fáil. What's the Irish for saunas?
A dose.
Taoiseach, the Irish for sauna.
Oh, Jesus, Mary Lou!
Is sauna.
I didn't notice you there going forward.
Well, there's a lot of things you don't notice these days, Taoiseach. And don't worry, Willie.
Huh?
I didn't notice it either.
Huh?
Sloan, August Bannock Galere.
Oh, God.
Jesus. Did she not get the memo on the towel either?
Ah, poor old Willie O.D. And new comedy every week on the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Get in touch with me directly, mariorosenstock@gmail.com, if you have any suggestions for guests that you would like to hear me interview, or sketches that you might like me to tackle, or new comedy characters that I haven't noticed that are out there. Maybe you could tell me about them, alert me to them. I read all the emails and I get back to most of them. mariorosenstock@gmail.com. And if you can't do that, just recommend this podcast to one other person. Remember, we don't charge for it, so you get this for free. So do your best to give me an nod of respect, as Tony Fenton used to say. And of course, we are joined by our new sponsor, that is Hum Finance. Thank you to Hum Finance for coming on board as sponsors of the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Hum is a finance company based in Ireland with over 30 years experience globally, and we're delighted to be partnering up with them to bring you this show. Hum provides flexible payment solutions for customers across a wide range of retailers: IKEA, Harvey Norman, Easy Living Interiors, Easy Living Furniture, and DID, to name just a few. So whether you're buying a kitchen, a laptop, or TV, some nice jewellery or clothing, whatever it might be, Hum is there to help you make those purchases and pay back in easy, bite-sized payments. It couldn't be easier. Hum is there for the big things and the little things in life, and now they're here for the Mario Rosenstock podcast. Thank you, Hum. So let's get on with today's episode, and let's meet my special guest, RuthAnne Cunnigham. She's one of Ireland's biggest singer-songwriter success stories, and as you might expect, her love of music started very early.
Yeah, I grew up in a very musical household. I was on the pubs in the racecourse in Baldoyle when I was 4. When we'd go for the Sunday roast or the Sunday carvery at the pubs, my mum and dad would put me on the tables, as the stories go, and I would just sing. I was kind of singing songs, and my mum and dad sing in church. They sing in hospices. They've always done that. So they always were the family. We were always the family doing the sing songs. So if we went on holiday, the guitar was out. We were singing, Grace and Christy Moore and, all the songs. So I grew up in a very musical household. And I would walk in and see my dad. I talk about it in the book, air guitaring to Led Zeppelin or Phil Lynott. Then my mum, we would pick up my dad from work. He worked as a customs officer, so he was in the Dublin port a lot. And we would go to pick him up and she would play Garth Brooks. So I was listening to like The Dance and The Thunder Rolls. And there's a video of me singing with my mum, like a really sad song. And I'm like, what? I can't even remember what song it was. But I'm like, what are we having me doing? And it was like a really emotional song. So I was very much listening to Carole King and Leonard Cohen and James Taylor through my mum and dad. And then my sisters who are older than me, one of my sisters was into Bon Jovi, the other was into Lauryn Hill, New Kids on the Block. So from a very early age, I was in a melting pot of different music and I loved it all. And I think my parents always said I was just very obsessed with music. I just was, I would sit and just listen. I would tape stuff from the radio. Back then you had to tape recording.
Yes.
And I would just listen over and over to Mariah Carey. And without anybody asking me to or telling me to, I would just practice the runs. I was like, at like 8. But I started writing songs at 7. I started first of all replacing famous songs with lyrics about like Happy Mother's Day or You're the Best Mom Ever. And I would use the melody from a song and replace it. And then at 7, I wrote my very first song, which was called He Lied to Me. And
deep. Santa Claus, that song was about, was it?
I don't know. I think my sisters, I was always watching stuff, Coronation Street and East, you were watching little things around. And I wrote that, and my parents straight away, their first reaction was, well, who lied to you? And I'm like, I don't know. I saw it on the TV. And so I very much would write about things I saw on the TV, films.
It's very deep. I mean, He Lied to Me is like, you sheepers, that's like a song you'd hear Olivia Rodrigo or something releasing, or
I know. I wish it was that good.
It's a great title. And when you say the runs, you were repeating the runs. What does the runs mean?
The runs are like, like a riff, like a famous Mariah Carey riff. In time. Like, it's like a scale that's really fast. So it's called riffing or runs. My dad gave me a 2-track tape recorder and a microphone. Because for singing in church, they had all that equipment. And I would just be practicing. And then the other story goes that from 5, I had my first solo in the church. I sang, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And that was my big moment at the church. And so from then they let me join the children's choir. So I think where I started understanding song structure from was actually when you'd get the sheets for the choir and it would have verse, chorus. And I was looking at them sheets, and I was 5, and I was the youngest they'd let join, because normally it would be like 7 or 8. But because I was belting everything from the pews, they were like, "Go on, you can join." Because I was just like, yeah. So they let me join. And so I think that's where I learned song structure. And then, I started writing songs, and I would teach them to my friends in the neighborhood, and they would sing my songs around the neighborhood. And that was how I kind of started.
So you are a kind of you are a mixture, you are a hybrid as well of a singer, but also very, very strong DNA songwriter. So, for example, when I think of something like Dolly Parton or somebody, do you know that kind of person who Dolly has the voice of an angel, but half of her, at least 50% of her, is that creative composition person. And famously, that story about writing Jolene and I Will Always Love You. In one day, she wrote it in one day, and I love hearing about that. But so you are both things.
I'm both things. I'm a singer-songwriter. For me, they go together. I can't have one without the other. Do you know what I mean? Like, they both go together, and one without the other doesn't work. It's like they both have to be together. It doesn't mean I have to be Dua Lipa or Adele. It just means that my voice is my strongest instrument that I have. So, like, some songwriters sit at a piano, and I play piano as well. So I'm a musician, and I program, I produce, I do all that stuff. But my strongest thing is I can sit, and a lot of the songs that some songs you might know of mine, I've written a cappella, and I just will write them, and I'll write the entire song, just singing it in a room somewhere, and then I'll go to the piano and I'll work out the chords around what I've written. And same with production. I will sit there and I will direct the musicians, what I hear in my head. I'll hear the violins, I'll hear the strings. And so I wouldn't be that person who's like tweaking I can do all that, the engineering side. I'm the person sitting with the engineer being like, right, we need strings to come in here, and they're going to sing this, and I need the strings to do this, and like the vision for the record. So I'm very much, my voice is everything. My voice is every instrument and is my main instrument. So for me, the singer and the songwriter are together.
When I think of singers, and people who have songs, all right? I mean, so everybody from call it Robbie Williams, Taylor Swift, right? So I think there's, I'll call it maybe off the top of my head, broadly 2 different types of people. There's one who has the vision themselves, right? So they kind of go, I know what this song is about. It's about my life. It's called He Lied to Me. I know what the first line is. I know what the chorus is. I know most of the lines. I know where the violins are. I know where the guitar is. Actually, I can play the drums as well. I'm actually just going to do it myself. Yes. And then there's another one where it's like someone maybe like Robbie Williams or somebody who goes, I just have this thing in my head which goes, "Wah, fuck you!" But that's all I've got. And then he needs somebody like Gary or the guy he worked with to go, so I love that energy out of the, yeah, fuck you. Maybe that could be the thing. But we're going to build a whole song about that, because that's not Robbie. Robbie doesn't have maybe that ability. It's more, he has the intent, maybe the anger or the drive of the song, but he doesn't have the nous, the structural ability to put it together.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
100%. So in my book, I talk about the formula that I think you need in a room to make great songs, right?
Tell me.
To make hit songs, to make universal songs. And you've just described two of the roles. So I can play both roles, and a lot of songwriters can do both. Some artists are the first one. So so there's two main components you need to make a great song. One is the idea person. The idea person is the person who almost doesn't think, they just feel, they just blah. They're like, oh, I'm thinking, and they sing something. And they might sing for like 20 minutes. The other component of that idea person is the song doctor. I call the song doctor.
Yeah.
The song doctor is someone who has the bird's eye view, bigger picture, and goes, that's the hook, that's the title, sing that again. Because sometimes the idea person, the artist, or
Can't see
can
it.
be in such a state of flow
Yeah.
that they don't know what's bad or good, or they might be like, oh, I don't know. And the song doctor is the person who comes at it more from a craft. So they craft.
Yep.
And so, you know, Robbie, in the scenario of Robbie and Guy Chambers, and I've worked with Guy, so I know Guy, and I've never worked with Robbie, but I've worked with Guy, and I would imagine in that scenario, Robbie is a great songwriter in the way of being the idea person and coming and being like, I don't wanna rock, and probably going on the mic, spitting loads of stuff on the mic, and Guy Chambers is going, repeat that line, you should do that again, this bit should go up, and that way, and so. And there are some songwriters, like I said, who can play both roles. And so there's times I go into a room, and I've been doing this for over 20 years now professionally. So sometimes I go into the room and I know that my role that day, right, no one in the room is the idea person. So I'm like, okay, I'll step in with the ideas. Oh, I've got this title, I've got this thing. Other days I might be in with an artist, like you said, who, you know, maybe starting to become a songwriter, maybe has a diary of thoughts, or sometimes I'm sit and just have a conversation with them, and they're writing the song without even knowing it, and I'm taking note of all the strongest things they've said.
Yeah.
And then I'll say to them, well, the title, we need to write a song called that, or that line you said, just tell me what you want to
amazing.
say. And I help them to make it into a song.
That's amazing, Ruth Ann. It's amazing. It's incredible, because really what you're talking about, I wrote down here emotional intelligence here as well, right? I wrote down read the room, and I wrote down therapist.
Yes.
All right?
They're all in my book.
It's all therapy. It's all reading the room. It's all listening. It's really about listening, and it's really about vibes. Like, I mean, not the shitty meaning of the word vibes. Vibes has been, you know, dynamic and vibes, and feeling somebody's energy, and feeling maybe what's coming off them, what's coming out of them, and tapping into their rawness. And I wrote down another word here as well: the ability to either project, in your case, or receive vulnerability. So it must be very important to be in a room where somebody can trust each other to be vulnerable.
Yeah, and everything you said, again, it's all in my book like this, because I talk about all the roles. There's the therapist, there's the searcher, there's the director, there's the lone wolf. There's some people who are very instant. You have to sometimes, you know, or there's artists who need a minute, and I fake a phone call because I'm like, they need a second. They're overwhelmed.
Okay.
They need a minute. So reading to be a songwriter, like as far as a career goes, you have to be incredibly emotionally intelligent. You have to be able to read the room and know where you need to fit, and you need to take your ego out of it. It's not about you, it's about the song. So you're always thinking, how do I get the best out of this artist right now? What is the way that I get, and it's not in a manipulative way. It's in a way of, they need to trust you. They need to feel comfortable with you. So the job of a songwriter is actually quite intense and high pressure in a way, because you might meet someone on a Tuesday at 12 and you need to make them comfortable enough with you. You need to make them like you. You need to get on, and in a very genuine way, not a fake way. And you need to find some common ground. You need to be a chameleon sometimes, because you could be in with different genres every day. And you need to be able to be someone that they will, you know, between the hours of 12 and 6 that you might have with them day, tell you their deepest, darkest secrets. And sometimes that can take the first session. You can just, you know, really get on with someone and the chemistry's there, or it might take a few sessions. So ultimately, even if you don't get the song that day, you need to make them like you enough that they want to bring you back into their room. There needs to be a vibe and a dynamic. So your job as a songwriter is that there's so much going on. That's why my book is called It's Not Just a Song. Because there's actually so much going on.
There's so much going on. I'm just jumping in here. Sorry, I don't normally jump in as much as I do, but because you're saying so many little button points here that there's some things that are really jumping out at me. Does it help try and take this question with as much as you can. Does it help being Irish in this? Yeah, I'm kind of wondering because I'm sort of thinking. I don't. Tell me why.
Because everybody loves Irish people. So from very young, because I started doing this professionally at 17, I was walking into rooms with Americans. And just with not knowing anyone, almost like speed dating, without the romantic side. But and being Irish always broke the ice. And also growing up in a family where we could chat to anyone, we started singing songs anywhere we went. Seeing my parents, just talking to anyone, like what Irish people will have a chat with anyone.
Yes.
It really served me well because social situations like that, I wasn't like, I was very like. What's going on? Let's have a chat. And also, I think what the Irishness that always for me broke the ice was telling a funny story or, coming in and being like, dude, I've just had this and being very almost, I've always found that being Irish 100% break the ice. And anywhere I would go, whether I was because I was, traveling around a lot. That's
breaking the ice, telling stories. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I was thinking.
And making people laugh would disarm them. And even, being vulnerable would disarm people. If I was like, I'm having a terrible day, that would open the artist up or if they, so I think all that Irishness and straight away, people just love Irish people. So I've never been in a room where it's always like, oh, I love Ireland. I love Irish people. So all the people before me that have made this great name for Ireland really helped me, especially in my first times in Hollywood of like walking into rooms. It was almost like being Irish was like the best calling card I had.
You know what you're like in a way, right? And it says, you know what you're like in a way. I don't know if anybody's ever called you this, right? Now this is a compliment. Right?
Okay, I hope so.
No, it is. But you're like a kind of a white witch. Do you know those kind of? It's a good witch. Do you know those ones?
A good witch.
Yeah, not the bad witch.
I'll take that.
White witch. That. It's like a white witch. So you're like you kind
mythical.
of have a kind of a spell. You can cast a spell. You can receive a spell. You can understand the spell.
Yes.
You're a kind of you deal in little bits of magic, basically.
Yes.
That's what your currency is. Yeah, that's what your currency is. You're dealing in little nuggets of magic and little fairy dust.
But you know what I feel like it is though is like I just love music that much. It's my passion for music. Like it's nothing that I do. It's just that I just love music and I love making music and I have such a passion in the room and I like to bring good energy to the room and I'm like, what is the best song we can write? Like I have no other agenda other than just like having a great day with people and write a great song.
Will you tell me an instance of a day where all of that came together for you? That you had that kind of amazing day collaborating with somebody and something came out of it. And it was like, it kind of maybe summarized everything you're telling me now.
I'd say In the Name of Love, the Martin Garrix one, because I actually was not in a good place. I was broke. I'd had hits. I needed another. I was singing in wedding bands in LA because my parents were like, you're going to have to get the boat home. We don't have, I had been up, I'd been rich, and then I was poor and I was, not so hot and not so relevant and hit songwriter. And I'd had hits and, you're only as good as your last hit and all that stuff. And the session had been cancelled on me that day with this producer. And my publisher was like, look, Ilse is free and you've wanted to work with Ilse. She's had her session cancelled. You've had your session cancelled. Like, let's get it together. And for a second I was like, oh, I'm just really ready to quit this industry. Like, da-da-da. But something in me was like, no, like, I think this is going to be a good day. Just make it a good day. And I picked myself up off the floor, as I like to call it. Creatives, a lot of the time we're on the floor, ready to quit because it is a roller coaster. And I went to the session that day and I had the title In the Name of Love. I'd written a song In the Name of Love 7 years prior. Nothing like In the Name of Love. Obviously it's a U2 title, so I'm not trying to say that I, thought of it myself. But handy tip for songwriters, titles are not copyrightable. So we can all write A Million Halos. We can write, Sia wrote 5 Chandeliers until she got the hit one. So you can reuse titles. Anyway, so I had that title and I thought, I don't know, something about that title today. And I needed this session to go well because I needed to just feel better about making music. And when I'm depressed about making music and when my career isn't going so well, I always go back to making music because the studio is the safest place for me. That's where it my love of music overrides any industry stuff that's stressing me out. So I went in and we wrote the song in 45 minutes. Now, and that's not in a boastful way of like, we wrote a song in 45 minutes, a hit, but I had taken 10,000 hours to get to the skill level of having, those songs are not written in 45 minutes. They're years in the making. And then it comes out in those 45 minutes. And Ilse is such an amazing lyricist. And I just started singing. I was so depressed about the music industry. She was depressed, she was really down about a love interest that she was seeing. Everything she was saying was like, was what I was feeling about the music industry, but I didn't say that. So I was vibing with her and I was going with her on this journey. But what ended up coming out was the two of us talking. She's talking about love. I'm talking about the music industry. And we wrote In the Name of Love in 45 minutes. And it was that like, I'm doing all of this for you. What would you do for me? If I told you I was going to walk in the fire, are you going to do, if I told you it's going to burn, are you going to do that? In the name of love, like, what are you going to do for me? And so that was an amazingly magical moment where the energy, the vibe, we sang the BVs. It was like, in the name of love. And we were just like belting the song. And then fast forward to 2 years later and I'm at Coachella in the Sahara tent watching Martin Garrix and everybody singing along. And it's been a big hit.
Oh my God. That is incredible. That kind of end to the journey where a song like that ends up and everybody's singing it. Is everybody singing your song live? Is that kind of a majorly peak moment when you see live a few thousand people or 10,000 people or whoever singing your song and knowing it? Is that an amazingly moving experience for you?
Yeah, every time. It never gets old. Even like it doesn't matter who it is. It's like one person, 10,000. I mean, obviously, you're in the Sahara tent and I'm like, and the thing is, it's so funny in them moments, I'm not really looking at the artist. I'm looking at the crowd. I'm always like looking around, like I'm standing here. They have no idea. Or sometimes if I'm the artist on the stage, I sing the vow, people sing along the vow, my own song with me or my own songs. But when people don't know it's you, it's almost even more magical because they don't know that this came, like In the Name of Love came from the pain of almost quitting music. And that song reviving me and being like, okay, no, I'm staying in I'm staying in the game. That's what that song did for me. So all those people singing that, and I've been in other scenarios where I've been in gym classes and I'm, and then my song comes on and I see people working a little bit harder and I'm like, yes, because that song motivates them. Or I see people crying or I see someone singing.
Yeah. Wow.
It's always magical. It's never not. It's the most magical thing. And it's even more magical that people are purely doing that maybe around me, not knowing that I am one of the writers.
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
The other thing about vulnerability, and I know I write sketches all the time, RuthAnne, right? So I write I write comedy sketches all the time, which is related in a way to writing music because most of the comedy sketches are 3 to 4 minutes long and you have to tell a story in 3 to 4 minutes and get out. Ian Dempsey often said to me, we're going to try and make this thing every day. We'll try and put on your sketch every day. And really, what's the objective? The objective is you want to entertain people. You want to make people laugh. You want people to know what you're talking about straight away and you're in there. But otherwise we're playing Billie Jean. So you got to get in ahead of Billie Jean because we can always play Billie Jean and Billie Jean is a fucking great option.
Yes.
But so you get in there, but we've heard it a million times. Hearing it 1,000,001 times is still good, but can you do something fresh that's going to be instead of Billie Jean? So that's what you've got to do. And one of the things that we do is you riff in rooms and you play and you pitch ideas. And so sometimes I'm like a features editor or pitching a feature in a newspaper. And they go, so you meet the editor and they go, what you got today? I've got the traveller story where their caravans have moved into la la la, or I've got the blood thing story in the hospital. And I go, let's go with the blood thing, like that, you know. So that's what we do. So I got 5 ideas which are comedy, and we kind of go, I like the sound of that. Let's do that. But one of the ways
that's very like songwriting. That's you're literally that's basically the same.
But one of the things you got to do as well is not be afraid to be stupid, silly, and obvious. So you've got to be in rooms where you say things that sound sometimes actually stupid, silly, and naive, and obvious, and not funny. So whereas somebody could turn around to go, I thought you were meant to be funny. That's like fucking basic. But sometimes you've got to go there to kind of go back to square one and all that sort of stuff. So, and I remember thinking the first time I heard "Nice to Meet You," I remember going, "What the fuck?" And actually, I have to be honest with you, 20 times later, I was getting it.
Of course.
So, but this came up. This is you and Niall Horan working together.
Yeah. Julian and Tobias. Go
on. Fool around at me and just tell me how something like that comes out. And are you looking at each other going, "Nice to meet you"? Do you know what I mean?
You know what? Again, I carry a lot of titles around, and "Nice to Meet You" was one of the titles I had on my phone.
Was it?
Yeah. And I remember that day Niall had the guitar and he had a guitar riff he was playing. And then I remember Julian being on the desk. Tobias was talking about like Tobias comes out with amazing lines about the tattoo and Julian, you know, it was, to be honest with you, we kind of all, sometimes in songwriting, you almost black out, because the vibe and the energy is so strong that you're writing lines, you're just, and I was like, "Gotta love you," because I immediately, whenever I write with artists, I'm always trying to get the single, right? Everybody is, right? It's very competitive right now, and I always want that song that's going to be one of their defining songs, the show opener, the closer, the big song, you know. And I think that with Niall for that record, definitely from my perspective, I was like, okay, we're going to get him something that's just so, you know, just out, you know. It's class, and I remember us talking about, you know, Moby, Let Me Entertain You, these great songs, and some of the 90s rock pop. And so Julian, like, I remember he made the track so fast. And I remember Niall was playing that guitar riff, and he was telling us a story about something that we ended up writing about. And I think because of the story he was telling us, that was when I was like, "Nice to meet you." And we were just, "Nice to meet you. What's your name?" I think that was the first section we wrote from my memory. And that was the first section. And then the "Gotta Love You" is like, you know, anyone who works with me will tell you, I'm always trying to inject some like soul in there. So if you ever hear anything like, "I love you, that's real." So I was trying to do the kind of like, what would be like a thing that almost sounds like a sample of my voice, and then Niall ended up doing it, and it almost sounds like a song. Gotta love you, that's real. And then Tobias was just like, I remember Tobias, like, he went outside for a second, and he came back and he was like, "I want it," and he did the "number tattooed on my arm," and he came in and just sang that.
Yeah,
because we had the verse melody, then we were trying to lyric it, and then we were just bouncing, and then I remember Julian saying to Niall, "We need like some weird French line or something," and then it was like, you know, Niall and him were like, "J'adore la mer." So the randomness that you might have felt from just, you know, "J'adore la mer," it was like, it almost was like we were a character. He was a character, you know. And I really love that song so much. And I remember saying in the room, this is like a sync dream of like football. You know, it's been used in so many syncs. And also a show opener. It's a show opener. It just opens a show, you know?
It's brilliant,
and that's what he's been doing. Yeah, he opens the show with it. So, yeah.
You say "J'adore la mer" or whatever. And I thought it reminded me of something in a comedy sketch, which is like, sometimes in a comedy sketch, a line gets repeated. They're like catchphrases. And that's like, it's a hook. It's a hook line.
Yeah, it's a hook.
So you go,
So
the sketch was about this, this, and this, and people go, yeah, but I love the bit that your man goes, J'adore la mer, and I go, yeah, but it's not about that, and they goes, yeah, but that's my favorite bit, and you go,
That's
yeah,
your
I know,
favourite
but
bit.
do you not like the sketch? No, I like the sketch, but I love the J'adore la mer. Do you know what I mean?
Well, in songs, you're always trying. I call it like I say it in the book as well, unique simplicity. So you always want something that people can grab onto that's simple, but also something that makes you go like, we could have had it all rolling in the deep. We could have had it all as generic, arguably. Rolling in the deep, you're like, ooh, what was that? Like you're always, as a songwriter, you're always looking for something that makes people go, oh, what's that? Yeah. And a unique way of saying something, and something that then will become its own thing. And so I think as a songwriter, I'm always looking for great concepts, great twists on concepts.
Yeah.
And also hooks that will, for me as well, it's about universal. Like, what's the most universal way we can say this? What's the most universal way that people can feel something? What's the most universal language without, so you always want to mix, conversational lyrics with something really unique and great and new. And if someone go, and almost like you've created a new phrase, or you've brought back a phrase, or you've twisted a phrase, so there's so many different things that, and it's not like, no one sits there. It's not a rule. I have a chapter in the book called the top 10 rules of hit making. It's not that they're rules that you need to sit and study. It's just they become embedded in your songwriter DNA. Like you end up, I call it songwriter DNA, all the experience, all the sessions and all the 10,000 hours, you end up just learning these things.
Yeah.
And you start being like, oh, okay, this phonetic sounds good here. Like we could have had, wrecking pot, like the ah. Anyone in the world can sing an ah. So it's like the phonetics start becoming part of it. And so, but it is a skill. It's a skill that your songwriting muscle needs to work on. When I was younger, when I was 17, I think I had a good sense of melody, but I think lyrically I was younger and I hadn't experienced a lot. And it's only like, as I got later into my 20s, I would go, okay, I'm getting better lyrically now, and so you're always learning and always getting better.
Watermelon sugar high.
There you go.
It's bonkers.
It's bonkers, but it's like also it's like a new phrase. It's unique. But it's simple. They just sing it over and over, so you can't get it out of your head. There's so many things about it that are so excellent.
It also rolls off the tongue. So watermelon it. So watermelon sugar. Ha. Yeah. Watermelon. You can almost say that infinite number of times.
Yeah, it's the phonetics that is. A lot of the time, like the reason why, if we did in the name of, me, it doesn't sound as good. In the name of love, like everything needs to sound great on the ear. And it's about how it rolls off the tongue 100%. And that's how things become hooky, and that's how they become universal. You have to think of it like that. But there's also times where, and I talk about this in the book as well, I have a chapter called Breaking the Rules, the Exceptions. There's also times where you need to not be too, it has to be this. There are times when the song needs to be written out of pure, like, no crafting. Like,
Mama just killed a man.
Yeah, it needs to be whatever you went through, whatever you want to talk about. The vow for me was that. The vow I didn't think, I just wrote. And I didn't say, but the phonetic here and we need to have something more hookier. I just wrote it because it was coming from a place of like writing a song about unconditional love and what I wanted to find and what my parents. So there are songs where you need to craft. And if you want to be a top songwriter in the world, like, writing these big universal hits, there is a certain amount of craft, right? But then there's also songs that defy all of those rules and become hits. And I've done it. I've been lucky enough to be a part of both types of songs. So I understand.
Did you watch Paul McCartney's Wings documentary?
I haven't watched it yet. So you know that Ilse, who I wrote In the Name of Love with, her dad was the guitarist in Wings.
Wow.
So Ilse, she wrote.
What was his name? What was his name, RuthAnne?
Honestly, I don't know. I've never met him. That's probably bad that I don't know. But he was the guitarist in Wings. But yeah, I have to watch it. I am such a music documentary fan. Like, and when I like the classic album doc of Fleetwood Mac Rumors I've watched, I could probably recite it to you. I read books about how albums are made, the Paul Simon Graceland one. Like, I always say to people who want to get into this, become a student of song, study. And the studying is watching if you want to be a singer, watch the great singers and just keep watching them. And if you want to be a songwriter, watch every documentary, watch how the greatest albums were made, study, and get my book.
Yeah, absolutely. Your book is just an absolute prime way of looking at this. But like the McCartney, one of the things in McCartney that they cover, it's about Wings. So it was a sticky period for him at times at the beginning. Wings didn't get off the ground, forgiving the pun, at the beginning, and then it did. And then at the end, it was pretty much a huge success. But at the beginning, it had several reincarnations and iterations which didn't work. And McCartney was very uncool, really uncool. He was the thing the one thing that the world was rejecting at the time. They were going prog rock. They were going, Mark Bolan and all this and David Bowie. And he stayed where he was. And people were accusing him of writing these silly love songs. And then he actually ended up writing a song called Silly Love Songs. And then he goes, some people silly love songs. And then the chorus goes, I love you. So he actually sings a silly love song in response to the people who accuse him of writing silly love songs. It was really kind of an interesting thing to do. And then he moved.
But I love that. He was ahead of his time. I mean, this is the same. I always say to people about Pet Sounds. Like, Pet Sounds was critically panned, failed. It was ahead of its time, and it really affected Brian Wilson because for him, it was such he was a visionary and he was ahead of his time, but people didn't understand it. People were like, this is whoa. And if it commercially failed, now, when I say that to people, they're like, what? It's one of the best albums of all time. And I'm like, yes, but when it came out, it was commercially panned. It was, critics were like, and it's like Freddie Mercury's manager saying no one's going to play an 8-minute song on the radio. And Wings was the same. And then, that's why I always say to people, like, reviews and numbers, like, don't be so obsessed with them, because you could have a song and it could come out in 5 years time, it might blow.
That's right.
Or in 10 years time, people will look back and go, Pet Sounds is one of them. But at that time, it wasn't received well because people didn't understand it.
Yeah. Like, oh boy, this exists in filmmaking as well. Just a brief anecdote here, but just like, one of the great horror movies is called The Thing, right? And it stars Kurt Russell. And it's directed by John Carpenter. And it came out in 1982. And it's an absolute stone cold world classic. It completely bombed. Why? Because it came out in the same weekend as E.T.
Oh, Lord.
Right? So it had absolutely no chance.
No
Biggest
chance.
movie of all time was released. And it got drowned and it never got found again. Similarly with the Shawshank Redemption was released on the same weekend as two of the biggest movies of all time. I think it was Pulp Fiction and something else, and it got drowned out until later it found a video on demand video. And so timing is really important. And a song or an album can be written at a certain time. It can be brilliant or whatever, but it might not find its place at that time.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Buckley was the same. Jeff Buckley, I mean, honestly, he's one of my favorite artists of all time. And he, again, commercial fail, signed by a record label. The first album commercially failed as far as the record label and the success. And then he passed away. Sadly, we lost such an amazing artist. And then now he's Jeff Buckley, and he influenced. Coldplay calls him an influence. Like, so many artists are like, yeah, Jeff Buckley's Grace album. Grace is one of the best records of all time, and it was again a commercial failure. So for me, when I'm thinking about writing songs, same with some of the songs I've written, if they don't get cut straight away. So say if I write a song and it's for pitch, and we're pitching it to artists, and it doesn't find a home straight away, I don't ever think that's the song. I think especially if I know the song is strong, the song finds its home in 2 years. Same with songs that I've written where, there was one song I wrote called Little Do You Know. Alex and Sierra, they had won the X Factor in the USA and they flopped. And then 5 years later, someone put it on a YouTube video and it absolutely went nuts. And now it's, double multi-platinum, and they broke up. The band aren't even together anymore, but the song is huge. And on TikTok, it's been just recently in the last few years, huge on TikTok. So it's like, for me, I don't really look at think of the value of my work from the success of it. I think of, what I love about it. And when I'm writing songs, I think about making the best art that I can make, because it's all art. And if people don't understand it now, they might in 5 years' time, and it might have some of the biggest moments for the songs might be coming still. And so, yeah, I don't get bogged down in success or numbers.
Yeah. I'm just wondering. I was looking around because obviously I work in radio, and so you hear a lot of pop songs, and you tune out for a while sometimes, but then you tune in for a while, and you go, "What am I hearing? What am I hearing?" And one of the things that I'm hearing a lot, and you'd be aware of this, is very few bands. There's not many bands. Yeah. So bands are we're not in the era of bands anymore, but we definitely are in the era of female singers.
Yes.
I mean, boy, there are some. I mean, I didn't even know. Like, sorry, forgive my. I didn't even know who Olivia Dean was until last week, and and now she's like the absolutely massive thing, you know.
And I worked with Olivia at the very beginning.
Did you?
Yes, I did, and she's such a lovely person. And I remember we got a train home together from the session, and she said to me, she was talking about gigging at the week. She was like, "I got these gigs," and then she said, "Because I don't think people get it. Like, I want to be the biggest artist in the world. I'm gonna be the biggest artist in the world." And for me, I was like, she was amazing, but I was like, "Whoa, she's like, wow, I love that confidence," because the industry, you know, would be like, do you know? I mean, the industry at that time would have been like, "All right, do you know, not, you know." But she had this vision, and she stuck to her guns, and she stuck with her instincts. And that's why she's winning, because she just refused to let the industry stop that from happening, and she just made it happen. And so I'm really proud of her. And I know a lot of the songwriters very well that work with her. And, you know, Max Wolfgang is, you know, I've written with Max loads, and he did Rain Me In, and So Easy to Fall in Love, and John Ryan, and who I've done a lot of the One Direction stuff, did So Easy to Fall in Love. And it's like, to watch her win now is incredible, because, you know, there's a thing about the industry that, like, if you don't instantly become successful, especially these days, people count you out. But it's the people who just keep going, and it's the people who just refuse to take no. And it's the same as songwriters. It's like, people ask me, like, you know, what do I think successful songwriters are? I said, they just don't quit. They just keep going. They refuse to give up.
I know, I hear you, but you just said there, this girl, Olivia Dean, said, "I want to be the biggest in the world," or whatever, right? Now, I could argue with you there. There's tons of girls saying that, and there's tons of girls with talent, and they're bolshy, and they won't take no for an answer, and they are going to tell you to fuck right off if you disagree with them.
Right.
And if you say the business is hard and la la la, they go, "I know the business is hard, and I'm going to do it." I mean, surely there's lots of girls and boys like that, RuthAnne.
Yes, there is. There is. I always say you have to have a little bit of delusion, but at the end of the day, you need great songs. So you've got to have, like, Olivia wasn't just someone saying, like, "I'm going to do this." It was like, if you have the songs to back it up.
But did she?
For me, it's like everything has to align. Momentum has to be building. The songs need to be there. And also, like you said, we're in an era where the music industry goes in cycles. It always has.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes you're going to have, there was a huge era of dance. There was a huge era of like Avicii, David Guetta, Then it might go into an R&B era. Then it might go into a rock era. Then it might go back to dance. And right now, like you said, we're in, you know, Olivia brought back something that was missing, you know. And so I always say as well, like, you can go out on a limb and you can go for that sound, and it might not work at that time. But what she did was she just stuck to the sound that she wanted to do. It's kind of like Teddy Swims as well, and Noah Can. It's like, the artists now, you know, are getting to just do the music that they want to do. And what's interesting is, while we don't have a lot of bands, we have a lot of music that's influenced by bands, like Harry Styles' As It Was. That's all influenced by those bands, you know, but he's just happens to be a solo artist bringing it back. So I do believe that the bands are going to come back. You know, I think everything goes in cycles. Like, Florence Road is a great new Irish female band that I'm like, okay, loving this. You know, the Wet Leg, there's this band, The Last Dinner Party. They are there. And I do think that we'll go back to an era like that. But I think the music industry goes in cycles. So right now, Billie Eilish, Olivia Dean, Olivia Rodrigo, Taylor Swift's been, you know, running it for a long time, but we're in that era where the female, and, you know, that's amazing. To have females be winning the Grammys and winning. And
I think you were saying that you need to be successful
early, or else people lose faith and whatever. But I think Chapel Roan went through a period where she had a bit of success and then fell off, and then had to kind of reinvent herself. And the Pink Pony Club thing, I think, is absolutely extraordinary. I think that's a really, really an amazing song, and that must be sort of autobiographical, because it seems just impossible not to be.
But you know the story of that. You know that she wrote that when she was still signed to Dan, who is her producer and also produces Olivia Rodrigo. He worked with Chapel when she was signed to Atlantic. I think it was Atlantic. And they sent Pink Pony Club. And he did an interview and he was like, they thought the title was stupid and they didn't believe in the song. So I don't know if they released it, but with the label or without the label, because she ultimately ended up being dropped, and then Dan signed her to a production deal, and then they licensed it through Island, right? But Pink Pony Club was out for 3 years before it was just sitting there, and it had not that many streams, and it wasn't a hit. So that's why I'm always saying the song's not the problem. Sometimes it's the vehicle. Sometimes it's the timing, the vehicle. And so then Chapel started really gaining momentum, right? She went on tour with Olivia Rodrigo. She opened for Olivia Rodrigo. She, was putting out music, and I can't remember if it was Hot to Go or Good Luck Babe, but then people came back to Pink Pony Club. And that's what's so amazing, is that for her, there's that really famous video now of her playing to like 50 people. And then it cuts to like 2 years later, same with Olivia, playing to an empty crowd, and then whatever. And it's like, right now there's not as many gatekeepers, and that can happen, but that label had that song and they thought Pink Pony Club was stupid, and they thought the character of Chapel Roan was stupid, and Ray had the same thing. They had escapism. They didn't believe in it. She went on her own. And so for me, it's like, I think now the music industry is starting to go, okay, maybe we've been wrong about some things, now they're going, okay, maybe we need to start believing a little bit more in our artists' visions and everything. So you're seeing now what I'm seeing as a songwriter is labels are now starting to develop artists again. They're starting to sign artists that don't have lots of numbers and are starting at the beginning. And so that's really exciting for me as a songwriter, to get in on those projects at the beginning and hopefully develop them into being the next Olivia Dean.
And my thanks to RuthAnne Cunnigham for coming in and telling me her fascinating story, or at least the first part of it. We talked for so long that I think there is enough material worthy to bring you all the other stuff that she talked about in the episode. She's got more fascinating stories. I adore the whole idea of the story behind the song, what was behind certain songs, what is the creative process like, as you can imagine. And of course, my thanks to Hum Finance for coming on board as sponsors once again of the Mario Rosenstock podcast. They've been here for 30 years, based in Ireland, and they have flexible payment solutions for customers across a wide range of retailers like IKEA and Easy Living Interiors. Hum is there for the big things and the little things in life, and now they're here for this podcast. And thank you to Hum for getting on board. Thank you to you for listening. Remember, tell one other person if you can about this episode, and the second half of RuthAnne Cunnigham comes next week. See you, folks.
The Mario Rosenstock podcast. Thanks to Hum. Finance made easy when you shop tech, electrical, appliances, kitchens, and much more. Flexify Europe Limited, trading as Hum, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.